Yo, so in this video, I'm going to be going over what I think are the top 10 best Battlegrounds attackers in the game. Now, this list is going to be pure attackers only. So champions like CGR, who's a very strong attacker, but has no use on defense. These are the type of champions you're going to see on this list. Champions like Hulkling, though, they are not going to make the list because, yes, Hulkling is one of the best attackers in the game, but he's also a very strong defender. So champions like this are going to be on the top 10 dual use champions for Battlegrounds list. So if you see a very strong attacker missing from here, it's a good chance they will be on the dual use champions list. I'm going to be rating these attackers based on how fast they are, of course, but also based on their utility, how versatile they are, how many problematic matchups they solve, and if they work in a majority of Battlegrounds metas, because a perfect example of a really strong attacker who will not make the list is Massacre. In a vanilla meta, he's one of the best attackers in game. He's extremely versatile, extremely fast, but the last 4 or 5 seasons in Battlegrounds, he has not been a viable attacker because he has just not worked well with the nodes. And if you're not working a majority of Battleground seasons, you cannot be considered one of the best Battlegrounds attackers in the game, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a really good example of a type of champion who will be left off the list just because they are not working in a lot of Battleground metas. But disclaimer before we start this is all based on my experience playing up in Celestial, playing in the top 100 or top 10. This is not meant to offend anyone. This is supposed to help people. Don't get offended if your favorite Battlegrounds attacker isn't on the list. I'm just trying to help people with their rank up decisions, trying to help people do better in Battlegrounds. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this and I hope you find it helpful. Let's jump into the list. At number 10, I'm going to be placing Mantis, and she is a insanely fast attacker. If you get good at playing her, she can finish fights in 30 to 40 seconds. Most fights die with a single special 2 from Mantis. So why isn't she higher on the list? Well, she's not as versatile as the other champions on this list. Don't get me wrong, she is pretty versatile, but she's not taking champions like Maestro, Serpent, Bullseye. There's a lot of tricky defenders that Mantis can't take, and she doesn't have as strong utility as the other champions on this list, but she does have some cool stuff. The Infuriate is really nice because not only does it make intercepting easier, having aggressive AI just makes the fights faster in general. It makes your opponent throw specials faster. It just lets you intercept faster. Yeah, Infuriate, really nice piece of utility, and I really like that her sleep is not classed as a stun, so she can take stun immune champs and champions that shrug off stuns just fine. Not a problem for her, and you know, she's pretty much one of the best counters to rank 3 Photon, who's a big problem at rank 3. She's really tanky. You have to wait out her blue light form if you're not using a good counter, and she has a netculty which reduces your damage. She's just tanky as hell. Even if you play the fight perfect, she takes a while to get down, but Mantis nukes her in 30 to 40 seconds, even as a rank 2 7-star versus rank 3 Photons, which is insane. So I do think she deserves to be in the top 10 Battlegrounds attackers. At number 9, I'm going to be placing Chavez, and she has to be on this list because she's the most reliable Serpent counter. She's the Serpent counter you see people mess up with the least, and that's insanely important because Serpent doesn't have many counters, but Chavez is probably the best one. But by no means is she only a Serpent counter. She's actually insanely versatile, thanks to the fact that she does not rely on any debuffs, she does not rely on any buffs. This makes her very versatile. There's not many matchups that Chavez can't take. The only thing holding her back is that she's not the fastest attacker in a fight where the opponent has no buffs. If your opponent has no buffs, you're looking at around a 50-second fight on average, but if your opponent has even 1 or 2 buffs, she becomes a insanely fast nuke, finishing fights in around 30 seconds then. So yeah, that's the only thing holding her back, is that in a fight with no buff, you're looking at around a 50-second fight, but she's insanely versatile. She handles plenty of tricky defenders like Onslaught, Maestro, Serpent, and she has some really nice utility. My favourite piece of utility that she has is the negative zone, which means you can reduce your opponent's power gain by 60%. This stacks though, so if you get 2 negative zones up, you can completely reverse your opponent's power gain. And this works against Mystic champions. She's a great Mystic counter because if your opponent tries to gain power through MD, Chavez is just going to reverse it. So yeah, really versatile champ, really great Battlegrounds attacker, and I think she deserves the number 9 spot. At number 8, I'm going to be placing Hulk, and we all know he's a great Battlegrounds attacker for the matchups he works in, right? If his SB2 crits, you're looking at around a 30-second fight. If his SB2 doesn't crit, you're looking at around a 45-second fight, which is still pretty fast. But the main thing with Hulk, the main thing people love him so much, is that he has a incredible, pun intended there, he has a incredible stun lock. And it's really hard to mess up fights if your opponent is just stun locked the entire time. On top of having a stun lock, he has insane damage. The only reason he's not higher up is that there are plenty of defenders Hulk can't take, like Maestro, like Serpent, like Bullseye, like Atuma, just like Mantis, right? But I value Hulk over Mantis because in the matchups Hulk works in, he has that insane stun lock, and that's just a crazy piece of utility. So yeah, I think he's well deserving of the number 8 spot. At number 7, I'm going to be placing Kate Bishop, and she's just insanely versatile. Not many champions are immune to her cold snap, so this lets her take so many champions. There's not many champions that Kate can't take, honestly. And on top of that, the cold snap damage is so stupid. Like, she's finishing 7-star rank 3s in around 40 seconds, and she's stuck as a 6-star. It's insane. If Kate was a 7-star, she would be much higher up on the list, but since she's stuck as a 6-star, she's stuck at 7 for now. But never forget, we could have got a 7-star Kate Bishop, but you all voted for Shang-Chi. That's insane, man. But I'm kind of glad we don't have a 7-star Kate Bishop, because honestly, she's kind of broken. She is kind of too strong, and I don't think we'll be getting a 7-star anytime soon. But yeah, that's Kate. She's just insanely versatile, insanely fast, and she works most of the battleground metas, so well deserving of the number 7 spot. She could easily go higher as well, to be honest, but this is where I'm going to place her for now. At number 6, I'm going to be placing Crossbones, and believe it or not, this guy used to be hella underrated. It took so much convincing to make people finally see the power of Chad Bones, but I think most people would agree with me that he is a top 10 Battlegrounds attacker now. Most people see the power of the Chad Bones, and the nice thing about him is there's not much RNG. There is some RNG on when you'll gain your Furies on your basic attacks, but he has those guaranteed Furies off his special one and his overrun, so as long as you know how to use Crossbones, you are guaranteed to finish your fights in 30 to 40 seconds. His damage is off the charts, and he has insane utility. Of course, he has his infamous shrug off, which scales up with his Sig, but the strongest piece of utility what Crossbones has, and it's some of the strongest utility in the game, is his ability accuracy reduction. I won't get into what this stops too much, just check out one of my Crossbones videos, but just know that this defensive ability accuracy reduction stops so many abilities, it counters so many defenders, and it's one of the reasons why Crossbones is so OP. It makes him a hard counter to Photon, for example, because it completely shuts off Photon from gaining charges, so she can never go into blue light form. But that's just an example. It can stop so many different abilities, so Crossbones well deserving of the number 6 spot. I'm so happy that people finally see how OP he really is, because he's easily a top 2 skill. But yeah, I could gush about Crossbones all day. Let's move on to the next. At number 5, I'm going to be placing Kushala because she's insanely versatile, she's very fast, and she handles a lot of tricky defenders. Even if your opponent is Incinerate immune, you can get your damage through the Soul Barb of the SB2, and no one is immune to that. Well, I guess buff immune champions are immune to that damage, but no tricky defenders are buff immune, so that doesn't really matter. But yeah, her damage is insane. She can finish fights in around 40 to 50 seconds, 30 seconds if you're fighting a champion that's heavily buff reliant. And she handles a lot of tricky defenders like Bullseye, Serpent, Maestro, one of the best counters to these defenders. So yeah, I think she's well deserving of the number 5 spot. I really need to rank mine up, as you can see, but I just haven't ranked her up because I'm waiting on the 7-star. I did have a chance to choose her, but I chose the Photon dupe out of a selector over a new 7-star Kushala, which may have been a mistake, maybe, but hey, what can you do? At number 4, this is where the controversy starts. I know what you're all thinking, Jugs, only at number 4, not at number 1? What the fuck? Unsubscribe, dislike the video. Wait, let me explain myself. So, yes, in the metas where Juggernaut does work, he is OP, right? He's the best Battlegrounds attacker in game. He's doing ridiculous fights in around 20 seconds. He's insanely versatile. But how many metas has Juggernaut worked in the last year? He's only worked for about half of the metas. So how can you call someone a top 3 Battlegrounds attacker if they only work half the time? You can't, in my opinion. You can't. Other champions would be excluded from this list, like Massacre. He hasn't worked in a lot of the recent Battlegrounds metas, so I excluded him from the list. But Juggernaut is that strong in the metas where he does work that he has to make it. But I cannot put a champion that only works half of the time in the top 3 Battlegrounds attackers. It just does not make sense to me. But yeah, of course, in the metas where he does work, he is the best Battlegrounds attacker. He's insanely fast, insanely versatile. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on Jugs. We all know how strong he is. It's just the fact that half the time he doesn't work. So I mean, how can he be in the top 3 best Battlegrounds attackers? He can't. He simply can't. At number 3, I'm going to be placing Titania. Anything, and I mean anything, will die with a Titania SB3. She's insanely versatile as well. She takes fights that she's really not supposed to. Like, you'll see Titania nuking Korgs, nuking Atumas, nuking Maestros. Fights she has no business doing. Most of the time, champions that rely on SB3s, they're not good for Battlegrounds. But thanks to Titania's Haymaker, you can get hit to gain extra power. Thanks to her indestructible. So you can get to your SB3 really fast, and her SB3 animation is really short, so she can nuke fights really fast still. Like, most fights with Titania are around 45 seconds. She's insanely versatile. She's very safe thanks to that Haymaker. It gives her free openings. It lets her tank special attacks if she needs to. The only reason she's at number 3 and not at number 1 or number 2 is you're never going to get a 30-second fight with Titania because you need to get to that SB3. So you can outspeed her, but there's not many champions that can outspeed her, and she's insanely versatile. So I think she's well deserving of the number 3 spot. Deciding between the 1st and 2nd spot was really difficult, but I've decided to place CGR at the number 2 spot, and I don't need to talk about this guy too much. You all know the power of CGR. Sub 30-second fights, handles some of the trickiest defenders in game, like Maestro, Bullseye, Serpent sometimes. But I think there's a champion who's a bit more versatile and a bit safer, whilst having similar damage. So let's see who that is. Yeah, at the number 1 spot, a 2017 champion. I really do think Starkey is the best Battlegrounds attacker there is right now. There's rarely a meta where this guy doesn't work. There's rarely a defender this guy doesn't work against. The only meta defender this guy can't really take is Serpent. Any other defender, he nukes pretty much. He has trouble against Killmonger, but he can still do that fight if you play it well. He's insanely versatile. He doesn't rely on any buffs or debuffs. He has that insanely strong power control off his heavy attack. He has that stun lock off his SB1. So you never have to bait a special attack off the opponent if you don't want to. And the fact that he ramps up without having to hit his opponent just makes fights really easy, because you can ramp up, get to 10 poise, then you can power drain your opponent and start to stun lock them with the SB1. He's a very safe attacker, he's a very fast attacker, and he's a very versatile attacker. I think what really pushed him over the edge was the bullseye nerf, because the bullseye nerf made Starkey a great counter to him, and now there's not much stopping Starkey. I really should have rank 3'd my 7-star over Red Skull. I really regret that, because yeah, I honestly think he's the best Battlegrounds attacker there is right now. But that's it for the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all found this helpful. If you did, I'd massively appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video.